Hi, my name is Heather, and I'm here with Special Treat Friday, giving you some more writing tips. And recently, I've had a couple of different teachers wondering how to teach introduction sentences and conclusion sentences to their students. And I wanted to give you some tips that I have learned that have worked really well with my students. So at this point of the writing, it would assume, let me get my papers straight here. I would assume that you would already be at this point of the writing process. This is for informational writing. This is a template that I use for my informational writing curriculum. And so this is several stages in. This is a pretty basic one for a student who's not quite the lowest, but just about one of the lower students in your class. Now, my sentences here might be a little bit more advanced, but we're going to use them to give us a basic idea. All right, so at this point of the writing process, your students already have their inferences down here, and we are looking to fill in our introduction sentence and our conclusion sentence, which can be difficult sentences for a student to figure out what to write about. All right, so first I explain to my students what is an introduction sentence, and you need to start with the introduction sentence first before doing the conclusion sentence. So an introduction sentence is you're tipping your reader off to let them know what they're going to be reading about. And so you're giving them just like a little tip, and it's kind of like a little teaser to get there. It's also, you can also tell them that it's a preview to what they're going to be reading about, kind of like when you go to the movies, you see a preview about what the movie is going to be about that you might want to see. So I'm going to start with the animal, the beaver. That's the one I have for my example here. And my ideal sentence would be beavers use their teeth to survive in the wild. Because if you look at my my inference sentences, I have beavers live by the water and their front teeth are shaped like chisels. Beavers have fur and use their teeth to cut down trees. So these are actual sentences from some of my students that have written about the beaver before. So I use their sentences. And so I ask them, what is the main thing that I'm writing about? Well, I'm writing about beavers' teeth. And so the ideal sentence I would want from them would be that beavers use their teeth to help them survive, but not many first and second graders are going to come up with that on their own. So that's what I'm aiming for, but we're going to start a little bit simpler than that. So what I like to do is I like to write one idea down on the board, and then I help my students come up with some other ideas. So we're getting, and this would be their first experience with introduction sentences, or your first experience teaching them, so they haven't really seen this before. But I do this often. Each time we do introduction sentences, and I just slowly start to kind of wean them off a little bit as they get more advanced. All right, so I'm going to start with a basic introduction sentence, which is I ask them, where do beavers live? And they say, oh, beavers live in the wild. Right. That's what we're going to start with. So beavers live in the wild. And then I say, let's add to this sentence. Where do the beavers live near in the wild? And they might say, oh, beavers live near the water. And so I could say, okay, I'm going to write another introduction sentence. And this one's going to say, beavers live near the water in the wild. All right. And then I could ask them, oh, tell me a little bit more about the beavers. Are beavers big? Are they giant? Are they small? Are they fluffy? What color are they? And so they might say that beavers are small. So I could say small beavers live by the water. So we've got another introduction sentence here. So right now on the board, they have 3 introduction sentences. So we keep going and we add different things. I might ask them questions about, since we're talking about their teeth, can you tell me something about their teeth? Let me grab my eraser here. Say, do beavers have teeth? Do you want your reader to know that beavers have teeth, right? So they say, yes, the beavers have teeth. So are the beavers' teeth big or are they small? They say, oh, they're kind of big. So beavers have big teeth, they might say. They've also read that beavers have two front teeth. So maybe they want to say that. So they could say, I would say, what kind of teeth do they have? And they would say, or how many teeth do they have? And they say, oh, beavers have two teeth. So, because at this point, they've read a lot about beavers. So they know a lot of different facts. So beavers have two front teeth. And then I might ask them to tell me a little bit more about their teeth. So beavers have two, and in their reading, they learned that they are orange. So have two orange front teeth. So we keep going until we have about maybe 8 different introduction sentences. It's up to you how long you want it to keep going. If you feel that they're kind of losing the idea of it, then go ahead and stop. So then what I have them do is on their page here for their introduction sentence, I say, all right, now go ahead and pick the one that you gave or your favorite one. If you like something that somebody else gave, you can go ahead and use that one. Or if you want to change one a little bit more to where you just want to make it a little bit different, then you can go ahead and do that on there. So they go ahead and they copy this down. Now, as we do this more and more, I would expect that they would not be copying it from here, but this is teaching them how to kind of form that introduction sentence. Oops, sorry about that. All right, so that's our introduction sentence. So they will go ahead and pick theirs that they're going to do. And I'm going to pretend that this child chose our original one. Beavers live in the wild. All right, so this is our sentence that this child has chosen. All right, so after they've written their introduction sentence on their paper, I actually have them get out their whiteboards, because all my students have these personal whiteboards. I highly recommend it. I use them in all different subject areas, in reading and math, in writing, every area we use them. So I have them get out their boards and write their introduction sentence that they just wrote on their paper, and I have them write it again on their whiteboard. And the reason that we do that is because for the conclusion sentence, their conclusion sentence is reframing their introduction sentence, but changing it up a little bit. And I want to show you how I have them do that. All right, so my student has written, beavers live in the wild. Now we want the conclusion sentence to look similar or sound similar, but we don't want it to be exactly the same. I also wanted to point out on here that, so it goes beavers, beavers, beavers. And in first grade, second grade, that's okay at the beginning to kind of have the beavers, beavers, beavers. I do start to encourage them to use pronouns and different words instead of repeating over and over. But at first, we're not going to worry about that. All right. But here in the conclusion is a chance to get them to say something besides beavers. All right. So I asked them, what could we say instead of beavers? And I'd say, if we're going to erase the sentence, or I mean, not the sentence, this word, and what lives in the wild? And they could say, they live in the wild. So then I have them replace it with they. And we do some examples up on the board. And then I also do little mini conferences where I stop by. If they're not getting the concept, I'll stop by their desk and work with them individually on their introduction sentence. So we do this up on the board with the ones that we already had up there. And then I can go by and kind of help them to make it better. So they might want to leave it as beavers, or they might change it to they. So now we have they live in the wild. Well, what could we say instead of wild? What's another word for where beavers might live? And so maybe they say, oh, they live in the forest. Okay, so we're going to erase the word wild and write forest. They live in the forest. And we say, well, we want to have some more detail in our sentence. So where exactly do they live in the forest? And we'll say, oh, they live near the water. Okay, so we're going to erase the word forest. They live not in, but they live near the water in the forest. We say, okay, how does this sound? They live near the water in the forest. So here our original sentence was beavers live in the wild. And we've taken that same sentence, but now we've changed it to make it more of a conclusion. So here's how their final paper will end up sounding. So it says beavers live in the wild. Beavers live by the water, and their front teeth are shaped like chisels. Beavers have fur, and they use their teeth to cut down trees. They live near the water in the forest. All right, so they've taken and they've written the introduction sentence, and then they have their conclusion sentence. All right, so this concept can work with anything that you are teaching them to write for that informational. So the idea is taking that introduction sentence and giving their reader a little bit of a tip, a teaser about what they're going to read about. And then the conclusion is taking that introduction sentence and switching some words around, adding some words to add some more details. So they are repeating that idea at the end and kind of wrapping that sentence up. Hi, I wanted to add a couple more introduction conversions to the conclusion sentences, just so you have a couple more examples, except for or besides just having the beaver one. All right, so another one might be sharks have big teeth. All right, so they come up with this sentence for the introduction sentence: sharks have big teeth. Now, in my class, we've been working a lot about suffixes, different words, and we have some different charts up in the classroom. So I challenged them to try to use one of those bigger words. And so one of my classes, they said instead of big, they wanted to use the word powerful. And so I said, oh, that sounds amazing. We'll use the word powerful. So sharks have powerful teeth. All right, so now to change this into a conclusion sentence, I can either leave the word sharks, or some of the students, they wanted to change it because they were writing about great white sharks. So maybe the intro sentence said great white sharks, and so then they wanted to change it to sharks have powerful teeth. Now, instead of powerful, what's a different word that I could use instead of powerful? And so they said, how about large? Okay, so sharks have large teeth. What's a different word besides using teeth that we could use? So what's another word? And we say, what's this thing right here that sharks have? Oh, it's their jaw. So they have large jaws. And so now I have a new sentence that say, oh, we're going to add the S. Sharks have large jaws. So our first sentence was sharks have powerful teeth. And then our conclusion would be sharks have large jaws. And then I would encourage them to add a little bit more descriptive language in there as well. All right, so let's go ahead and do one more. So my introduction sentence is tigers live in the jungle. Okay, so instead of tigers, what's another word that I could say? And you might say, oh, they. Okay, so they, and I replace it, they live in the jungle. All right. So what could I say instead of jungle? What could I say a little bit something different? Where do tigers live? In the trees. Okay, so tigers live in the trees. Are these big trees or are they little trees? Oh, they're big trees. And are there just one tree or are there a lot of trees? Oh, there's a lot of trees. Okay, so let's see what we could do. They live in, maybe we could say instead of in, we could say with, and we're going to say lots. We don't want that in there. They live with lots of big trees. So my first sentence was tigers live in the jungle. And then now this is my conclusion sentence. They live with lots of big trees. So I've taken that sentence and I've switched it around a little bit, rephrased it to come up with my conclusion sentence. All right, so there's a couple more examples. I hope that helps you, and I hope most importantly that it helps your students out. All right, thank you.